First reading, a bill for an act to amend the law relating to social security and for related purposes.
Call on the Minister.
I move that this bill now be read a second time. Well, Deputy Speaker, today I am introducing the first legislative requirement to abolish the cashless debit card, the Social Security Administration Amendment, Repeal of the Cashless Debit Card and Others Measures Bill 2022. This bill delivers on the Albanese's election commitment to abolish the cashless debit card and is the first product of an ongoing and sincere community consultation with our many communities around the country. The cashless debit card has been operating across Australia for 6 years. The former government introduced the card in Ceduna in 2016, but over time it was expanded to the East Kimberley, Goldfields, Bundaberg, Hervey Bay areas and most recently the Northern Territory and Cape York. The former government claimed the card would help address some of the adverse behaviours related to drug and alcohol misuse in communities by quarantining a portion of a person's income support. Despite this intention, there has never been evidence to show that the cashless debit card is delivering on this objective. Numerous evaluations, inquiries and audits have never rendered clear, unequivocal data that demonstrated the card was working. Just last month, the Australian National Audit Office released its latest audit on the performance of the cashless debit card, highlighting once more the lack of evidence available to demonstrate any success of the card. There was no key performance indicators, evidence or evaluation conducted to support the former government scheme. And despite this message being delivered not once but twice by the ANAO, in its first report in 2018 and now in 2022, the former government just refused to listen. Service providers on the front line of helping those who interact with the card have been scathing about its existence. St Vincent de Paul said the card had unintended and expensive consequences across government and the community, including social exclusion and stigmatisation, increased financial hardship and the erosion of individual autonomy and dignity. In a policy briefing back in 2019, the group said ultimately this is a punitive and paternalistic measure that is driven by ideology rather than evidence. Put simply, the cashless debit card is not delivering on its long-promised outcomes, and no one is buying it anymore, certainly not this government. My recent consultations in Ceduna and the East Kimberley region have only reinforced the finding and views of others, as visits have to Bundaberg and Hervey Bay, where my the Assistant Minister for Social Services and my colleague has visited and heard similar feedback. I've personally been told of the tragic stories relating to the inadequacy of the cashless debit card. Stories in communities like Kununurra in the East Kimberley region, where the introduction of the cashless debit card has not stopped alcohol misuse and instead encouraged workarounds which have made people worse off overall, with less money in their pockets. We have listened to First Nations community leaders, service providers and cashless debit card participants in these communities. And many have told us that the CDC card stigmatises them and makes their life more difficult because they cannot access the cash economy. In some cases, it's even blocked the rent payments of users, making housing stability an extra issue they've had to face. Users also describe to me the shame and anguish the card brings. It makes them feel like they're being punished for being on welfare. Today, our government is saying enough is enough. We're calling time on the cashless debit card. There is a better way, and that is why the Prime Minister said removing the card would be central to his priority agenda if we're elected to government. We are moving decisively to abolish the CDC card in the first week of a new parliament. And we're doing this in a considered and deliberate manner. It is critical that the transition away from the cashless debit card is smooth and people and communities continue to have access to the supports that they need. And that is exactly what this bill, the first step, is to transitioning participants off the card. The bill will remove the ability for any new entrants to be put on the card. The bill will also enable more than 17,000 existing cashless debit card participants to be progressively transitioned off the card as soon as the bill receives royal assent, which we aim to have occur in the next sitting period in September, allowing for participants to regain their financial freedom they've been asking for. The bill will also enable the Family Responsibilities Commission to continue to support their community members by placing them onto income management where the need exists. And also, this bill will allow me to determine, following further consultation with First Nations peoples and my colleagues, how the Northern Territory participants on the CDC will transition and the income arrangement, or the income management arrangements that will exist. Finally, it will allow for the repeal of the cashless debit card on the day to be fixed by proclamation or a maximum of 6 months after royal assent, allowing for the necessary time to support a staged transition off the card. It will also make consequential amendments to a number of other acts and effectively removing the CDC from all social services legislation. Our absolute priority is to ensure participants are supported through their transition off the card in a safe and structured way. This will be done through extensive communication and an outreach strategy so that participants are well informed about the changes and what it means for them. Information and education sessions will be held in each cashless debit card site over the transition period with culturally appropriate information and support. Services Australia will conduct individually targeted transitional support interviews for those who need it or want this additional assistance to make sure that exiting participants are well informed on the options available to them. Not everyone will need this level of assistance, but this approach will ensure that no one's left behind due to being forced onto this card by the former government. As a government, we will deliver on our positive and clear plan for a better future, for a country guided by two fundamental principles. No one left behind, being always ensuring that we are looking out for the most disadvantaged and vulnerable in our country, and no one held back, because we always should support aspiration and opportunity. I do want to be clear on 2 points. Firstly, there is no requirement after this bill passes for a CDC participant to prove anything in order to move off the card. This is a source of deep concern for many people that currently an enormous amount of information and very private information is actually given or has to be given to Services Australia currently. I have to reiterate that. There will be no requirement for CDC participants once this bill is passed to prove anything to move off the card. Secondly, every CDC participant will be transitioned off the card once this bill passes the Parliament, and the CDC will be abolished. It will no longer exist. The engagements with Services Australia is to ensure that people have the right support they need to assist them with the transition. Where participants require continued assistance with budgeting, transferring direct debts from the cashless debit card or referrals to further support services, there will be help available, including the option for voluntary income management if they choose. This bill is not only the first step in the transition journey away from the cashless debit card, but it is a significant milestone in the reform of cashless welfare in Australia. Any measure we put in place as a government, we want to ensure will help the people we are assisting, and that welfare and income support should not be seen as punitive, but should always return to our core principles of no one being left behind. As a Labor government, our government will aim to support the most vulnerable in our community, and through income support, education, health, public housing and childcare, we will make Australia a better place than when we came to government. Extensive community consultation will continue on the broader question of income management to explore the future of this and other supports that are needed in communities in line with our core principles. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those community leaders who have met with me, who have spoke with me, who have given their time to express their opinions. I have listened to you, and I will continue to listen to you as we move forward and make sure we work together to ensure that you have the support you need. We will continue consulting and listening to a wide range of stakeholders, including our First Nations leaders, women's groups, service providers, communities, and importantly, those people receiving income support. These diverse perspectives on local needs will strongly inform our next steps. Consultation is central to everything we will do as a government. We want to ensure changes or measures we implement are actually helping. Our focus and our objective as a government remains clear: to empower people and communities and provide individuals in need with a range of supports so that they can choose to use when and how in a way that suits them. I commend the bill to the House.